Okay guys, let's talk about the HK Army Speed. So the Speed is not really a new hopper. The Speed was released by a company, Pinokio, maybe, I don't know, I'm just guessing here, 4 to 5 years ago. And last summer, HK Army purchased Pinokio, and then they started rebranding the Speed, the HK Army Speed. So Pinokio, for quite a while, made a hopper that was just called the Pinokio. It was a pretty basic hopper. It was electronic like the Speed is, but it was very simple and really kind of, I think, reminiscent of the JT Revolution. It had this big nose thing you like jammed on the front to make it hold 400 paintballs. And I kind of think that's what people knew it for, right? They kind of like thought of Pinokio and then just thought of this big, huge hopper. You didn't have to use the nose on there. You could take it off, and then it was kind of regular size hopper. It was still a little bit big though. And they just kind of never caught on, I think, because of that stigma, that like, oh, it's just this big, weird 400 round hopper. It wasn't like totally not used though. I mean, obviously Pinokio kept selling the things, but we mainly saw them used at like big games and scenarios and stuff like that, where guys like to shoot a bunch and just have 400 paintballs on top of their gun. So the whole reason that I think like this review makes sense at this point, years after the Speed was released, is really just because HK bought the thing. So before, it was the only way you could buy it was straight from Pinokio. So lots of paintball stores, paintball fields and stuff just didn't carry their products because they were really only making 2 hoppers. And now that HK have it, lots of paintball stores and paintball fields should be carrying it because HK makes everything, you know, pants, masks, whatever, everything. So a lot of stores are carrying the HK products, and then we're gonna probably start seeing the Speed at those stores and people playing with them at paintball fields more. Just really because it's, you know, more accessible. So one of my main goals when like making these review videos, or just videos in general, is trying to provide more context to things, right? Like what happened in the past, or what's gonna go on in the future, or where is this company at now? And with HK, I wanted to say that like the TFX2 was their main hopper, that hopper that's designed to compete with the Spire 3 and the Rotor R2. But with the Speed coming out from HK, I mean, it's like half the price at $80 versus $200, and it's selling way more than the TFX2. The TFX isn't necessarily a bad hopper, but really, I mean, the Spire 3 and the Rotor R2 are better loaders. So at $80, the Speed is just such a good value that they're selling a bunch. I don't know really where I wanted to go with that, just context. So right away, I mean, I think you notice that like the thing is very small. The Speed is a lot smaller and a lot lighter weight than the other electronic hoppers, kind of in this price range, or even the higher end ones. I mean, this thing only weighs 344 grams, and then the Spire weighs 444 grams. The GI Sports Level weighs 450, Spire 3 weighs 466, the Rotor R2 is 506 grams, and then the LTR from Dye weighs 550. And I'm normally not one to like squabble or really care about weight all that much, but even putting this on a gun with paint, batteries, and everything in it, it's noticeably lighter than like say if you had the Spire 3 on top. And I think having that lighter weight hopper kind of does make a little bit of difference because you don't have as much weight on top of the gun kind of pivoting and moving around. So let me grab something. Okay, so one of the things that, yeah, I think is good about having one of these lightweight hoppers is that it's just easier to move that thing. So say we're shooting like this and you wanna shoot to the right-hand side or left-hand side, I don't know, either way. If you're gonna go to shoot, you might roll out like this and try to shoot. And having that heavy hopper on top, it kind of just acts like a lever. So it's really heavy, it requires more strength to move it back. I mean, it's not like you gotta be like super strong to be able to move a gun back and forth, but having that lighter weight on top just makes it kind of easier to snap shoot back and forth. Whereas if you have a lightweight or heavy tank, it's probably not gonna matter as much because you're kind of just pivoting right there. You're not necessarily like moving the whole gun out when you're shooting. You kind of just roll out to shoot at stuff. So I think having that lighter weight hopper does make faster like snap shooting or just quicker gun skills in general. So that weight is because it's smaller, it just has that overall lower profile, so less materials. But it is that $80 hopper, right? So it's not gonna have a ton of features either. So having less features and just less going on attributes to that lightness. The shell material also, unfortunately, I think is attributing to the lightness. So it's made out of polystyrene. It's the same stuff that we're seeing a lot of like cheap electronic stuff made out of, right? So like plastic forks are made out of polystyrene, like solo cups are made out of polystyrene, or really just, I'm thinking in my head, what? Styrofoam, that also is polystyrene. But other higher end hoppers, like say the Spire 3, the Dye Rotors, they're made of polypropylene. And polypropylene is a little bit denser material. It can definitely take bending and like impacts considerably more than the polystyrene. So It's lighter material, but not nearly as durable as some of the other hoppers kind of in this price, like the Spire IR or the Dye Rotor LTR. So it's definitely like that harder, crisper, like just harder plastic that's not gonna take those like bends or like impacts as well as that polypropylene, like on the Dye Hoppers or the Spires. So like, you know, you can like hear it. Well, I don't know. Maybe. Another thing I don't really like about, we'll say, the shells is the way the lid opens. So the lid closes fine, you know, you can just close the lid, but opening it is very easy. You can see I can just barely flick the thing and it really kind of pops open. So if you have a bunch of paint and you're like moving the hopper around a bunch, it's very possible that the lid can just fly open on you. You don't have to use that lid though. There are a bunch of different speed feeds that will fit. And it does have that universal speed feed. So there is not like a proprietary speed feed that fits with these things. And the speed feed's a little bit abnormal. We'll say it's not common like we're seeing on like the rotors or the Spire or anything. It is not connected. So you can just kind of pull the speed feed right off. That's why I like the HK ones. These HK ones have rubber all on the inside, so it makes it much more grippy. So it's hard for that speed feed to come off or pull off or work itself loose. So the Exalt or like those knockoff Gen X ones are just hard rubber and they don't grip as well as the HK ones. So if you want a speed feed, just buy the HK one. So say like we take the Spire IR in that Rotor LTR, and taking those hoppers apart is way easier than it will be on the Speed. So the Speed comes apart a little bit, right? You can take the nose off. So taking the nose off just allows you to get in there and clean stuff a little bit easier. And then you can also take off the battery door without tools. Both of them just kind of come off and you can just slide them back on. But you cannot take out the internals like you can on the Spire IR or the Dye Hoppers. You do have to use a Phillips screwdriver. You can take out the screws and the whole thing just kind of clamshells apart and you can remove the internals. So if you break something for some reason, or if there's a lot of paint broken inside the hopper, you will have to use a screwdriver, unlike the Spire IR or the Dye Rotors. And performance has been good. Like hadn't had an issue. So I always use my 170R and I'm using ramping. So it's like a consistent like 10 balls a second. And I've had no problems with it. But to be fair, pretty much every electronic hopper now can feed that consistent 10 balls a second. So I put the 170R into uncapped semi and I can only shoot 16 balls a second. But that's more so me that I just can't shoot fast. But plenty of other people have said that they were able to squeeze like 20 balls a second out of it. So it's not super fast. Hoppers like the Rotor LTR or even the Halo 2 are both gonna feed faster. So my one like concern or potential issue with the Speed is the way it detects paintballs. So it does not use eyes, it doesn't use sound or a gyroscope like say the Spires do. It uses a piezoid sensor in the feed neck. So you can see that sensor pushed into the feed neck right there. That's my finger kind of like moving the thing out of the way. And when you're not shooting, the paintball is just sitting in the feed neck and the sensor is pushed down, then knows not to feed. When you start shooting, it sees that gap in those paintballs and then the hopper knows to feed. Valken also used a sensor like this on the VMAX, but they switched. They used that sensor for maybe like 3 or 4 years, didn't really have a problem with it though, but on the newer version of the VMAX 2, they actually went to like this wheel thing, which I don't know, is better I guess. It just feels better and I like it more. Just that little sensory thing just feels weird to me, I don't know. So overall, I like the thing. I think that performance is good, it's feeding consistent, it's feeding fairly quickly, it's very small and very lightweight. But it's not gonna be as durable as like say the Spire IR or the Dye Rotors. So if you want super durable, those two are probably gonna be a little bit better. But if you want small, lightweight, and good performance, HK Speed might be the one.